Alii and hello, I'm your host Erythrin and welcome back to another episode of the Oceanic Podcast, a project produced by UC Berkeley's Critical Pacific Island Studies Collective, otherwise known as CPISC. I'm here today with Dr. Tellei, and we will be continuing our conversation and simply opening the floor for more conversation and more dialogue about what we've talked about so far within these past two episodes.
Any plans for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I think we have a big PCC fundraising tomorrow, annual fundraiser. This is our 24th.
Okay.
24th one, and then we're still working to grow the endowment fund. Our initial goal was reaching 10 million. It took us 20 years to get there, but we're a little bit over that. And by the time you get to that amount, it will grow exponentially. I think that's because, but I think it's when I came here and we started it with like the first $100, people were laughing and sneering at it, and I guess at 11, close to 12 million this morning.
Oh wow!
People are not laughing, but they're like seriously considering, because if some of the entities that were raising funds, raising and spending, if they had raised and say, because right now at $10 million at even at just 5%, that's $500,000. So if they raised an endowment for a school, that's enough operation for one school, for a year. But that's something that people need to seriously think about the next egg. But that's kind of slightly different from in America, where an equity is valuable than savings. That's why there's the economic advisor for Palau. There's 5 of them. One is from Japan.
Yeah.
Yoshino Sensei, and he's advocating the Palau Savings Fund. And he's saying, because that's something that when Bank of Hawaii first came to Palau in 1960, that's when they opened. The idea behind that is to establish and support the savings so that people, and now they talk about financial literacy and everything, but that's what we had until people started. I know like you yourself, people who graduated from high school, sometimes they get like maybe $900,000, sometimes $2,000. And by the time they get to PCC in the fall, they don't have that amount of money. And that's something that we need to really talk to people on.
Personal finance?
Personal finance, they're talking about it, but we used to have that, and then we got away with that. I think it's tied to what we were talking about, people who believe that Palawan lifestyle and Palawan marriages are nothing but business transactions. So, but maybe the only difference is not in the past, where people did not live with each other. When the man could not provide, when I say provide, they're provide for the wife's financial obligation to her families, then it was legitimate to ask the women folks in the clan and then their family, where did you find this idiot? Time to let go of this person. You don't do that anymore, because the church will frown on that, the court will frown on that, and you'll be ostracized in the community. But in the past, it was normal.
Yeah.
So that's why when people wish to go back to the traditional Palau, I'm always cautioning people. It's an ugly time in Palau's history to return to. Very few people were in charge, and they get their way.
So do you think Palau now is better than Palau before in that sense?
Wait. Health-wise, so if we have the key performance indicators, from health standpoint, we are healthier and living longer. At least 30 years longer than before. 30. There were no elders.
That's a huge gap.
Yeah, it's a huge gap. Because, like my dad, our family tend to live long, but 105, 110. My dad is like 90, and my mom 89, and all those. But then you look at all the one generation before them. The oldest ones were 60s. A lot of people died in their 50s, their 40s. They were not. So that's also the fallacy. People were thin because they were sickly. They were not thin because they were healthy. That's something that people said, oh, don't talk about our past like that. Well, unless you're willing to confront that, you really cannot look at moving into the future. Where
move forward.
Issues of so there was no issues in the past for taking care of the elderly, the step-down centers, the hospice. There was no need for that in Palau. Now there is a need because there are elderly people who are staying much longer. And on top of that, there are elderly people with no relatives who will take care of them because they're part of the Palawan diaspora and nobody's at home. We just assume that somebody at home will take care of them. But I've asked at certain funerals, when you're all away, and who do you think should be taking care of your elderly parents and your aunties and uncles? And then there's no response to that. I said, well, the answer can be, you should by remitting money for people to take care of them. Because there are services that will take care of the elderly. But I think those are some of in the fast-paced life, we don't tend to talk about that. But I think the traditional Palau was well in those time and space. When we accepted the Japanese way of land ownership, that's really kind of part of the initial breakdown of Palawan culture and tradition, because we're beholden, like in Samoa right now, you're beholden to the Matai, because if you don't, they are the chiefly land owners. Same thing with the marshals. There's private ownership, but it's in the hands of the Iroids. And then they decide who gets to use the land. That's not true in Palau, because in 1922, Japanese offered us with an opportunity to register land. That's why I am an advocate of State Public Lands Authority, because, for instance, if we do not have, let's say, IRI, Public Lands Authority, only you guys will have the land, and the rest of the people living in IRI will not have a place to stay. Because unless you're in good graces with the elite families in IRI, you won't have a place to stay. So the idea of having, I've had arguments and discussions with many Palauans who say they should return this land to original owners. I said original owners were the chiefs. And that was not the best way for, that's why for the people, I guess the Japanese saw it and they tried to correct that by giving people, if you work hard and you're able to walk far and put the land markers, then they will register the land in your name. So that was one of the biggest change. But having said that, I think the role of the chiefs in Palau really depends on Malagyog. It's still very strong, like Koror, but Koror went through about 20 years ago. Koror had an amendment to their constitution, so they preserved the House of Chief. So they're not a legislative power in the state of Koror today as we know it. They have no authority. They're just a traditional chief, kind of like the IRI now. So IRI, they have 2 ngiragets right now, but really for IRI, it really doesn't matter because they're insignificant. I was there yesterday at the ribbon cutting. Yugi did not show up. A robot showed up for the ribbon cutting for the new highway to Oigul. They did not even call them to go and cut the ribbon. First, there's a recognition that there are 2 of them. So instead of sliding each other, maybe we should not. And the second one is they went for the lower village chiefs to do the ribbon cutting. I thought that was very significant. They did not call an ngiraget to help cut the ribbon.
Why do you think that was significant in
I
particular?
think because only Robert was there and Yugi was there, and just knowing the ministers, Minister ER he refers to Robert Ngirablugu as Ngiraget, but to others they refer to Yugi as Ngiraget. So to be on the safe side, they just state clear. And the governor of Ira, without even mentioning their names in his remarks yesterday, did not even mention. He mentioned the Oygul Rubag and Asang Rubag, but not Ira. That is kind of, to me, it's kind of problematic because there are certain things that needs to be done. Yugi is a good friend of mine. We work together in Pohnpei from 1980 to, he left in 82. I stayed until 85. And we've always had this discussion about the preservation. He was also the opposing lawyer for, I think he was helping Surangal Whips Senior in also the title fight in Ngatpang. I was helping Shalom. So we confronted each other and many times. Of course, Yugi was always very respectful when he was asking me questions. But I think it's really about, to me, I think the relationship is really about the truth. Because I was, in the case that I was, it was the first time they invoked, can there be a new OROT? That was the question. Can there be a new OROT? And then my position has been, yes, there can be. And then I went back to the ancient custom of Moor, and then creating. And then I explained the whole business of having the banks in the past when and the women elders, women folks could not take care of what needs to be taken care of. They lose their position of becoming an orot, and a person can rise. But I made it a point using one of the legends in Palau, and so I was kind of talking a lot about the Moor. So that's kind of, and then I was last year on July 9, last year 2024, we had a ceremony in Oygul, and they both showed up. Oygul is, when Ira splits into three, there's the Spadal, which is Oygul and Ngasaang. Oygul is in charge. I think I went through this last time. It's the Spadal, Ordomel, and Ngargatam. And then, because they saw it fit, to show up, and Dr. Yanong Ira Ite asked me, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'll take care of the mic. I'll cross the bridge when the time comes. And then I did that, and everybody laughed about it, and they said it was very creative. But you need to find a way to be very Palawan about it.
How did you do it?
How did I manage to recognize both of them? They were acknowledged by the government. Well, there's certain things that I think. So I referred to going back to the Peace Corps days. By the way, Peace Corps is coming to Palau next year. Yeah, they returned to Palau. So they have an office. Hopefully Trump will not close it. But this was...
Where's the office going to be?
It's over actually in Malacca, in Siangal, over at Dr. Llanos' residence at MDAC. Office, and they're bringing the first 10 volunteers next year. And I have asked for one, but they're saying they're all dedicated to the school system.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Are they going to be teachers?
Predominantly maybe teachers, because we went from English teachers to civil engineers working on water projects and health, bringing potable water to increase health. Because the way the Peace Corps works, in the past, a lot of people, Palawans didn't understand. They said, oh, we're asking them to do this, and they're sending, we're sending nurses and medics and everything to help us, and they send engineers to fresh out of college to build water systems, only to find out that 20 years later, that was like the best thing that the U.S. has done. They went to the cause. There are a lot of waterborne diseases. If you take care of drinking water, there will be fewer people in the hospital, sick people.
Yeah.
So they didn't listen to, they were complaining, oh, why we want the nurse. But the nurses, that's that's a sickness model where you have nurses, medics, doctors, dentists. When you do engineering projects, you improve the means so that people will not get sick.
Yeah.
So that's kind of. I think going back to the Peace Corps days, the question is, how do you recognize? I was telling them the story of an English class. An English teacher, a Peace Corps, held a banana and told them, when you hold one banana, you call it banana. When you hold more than two, then she held two and said, when you hold two, then you plus S. So this old man was fishing, so he was skipped English class. So the next day they went over, and they had an oral English examination. And this man remembered plus S, so the teacher held one banana and said banana, and then she held three, and she said, oh, banana plus S plus S. So because he didn't understand the concept of the pluralism, so you just go bananas. And so I said, today we're very fortunate because we're gathered in Oygul, the tip of the spear, and then Ngira gets our plus S today. And we went on with the ceremony, and it's, oh, that's a good one, especially stories.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they are related.
Yeah.
That's a difficulty in the Palawan, because there's no crown princeship like in Saudi. Yeah, in Saudi you have a crown prince.
Yeah.
And be Mohammed bin Salman, even if he killed journalists, he's still a crown prince.
Mm-hmm.
So in Palau, technically we should know, in Ponape they know who's going to be the next chief. Mm-hmm. Even before the chief dies, they know.
Yeah.
They know who's going to next and who's going to next. So go up to 15th line.
So we kind of just play it by ear?
You play it by ear and play it by, you strike it rich, you win that $1 billion lottery, and pretty soon if you're going to Palau and you have sons, chances are they're going to be chiefly titled people. Because like I said, about the 5 qualifications, Kirel, Samuel, Mlamwes, Tulut, Kraurot, and then approval by the Council of Chiefs. There's 5-step process. And then, of course, the division of the bai. That's very important in our traditional Palawan culture. There's ngolong and rabai, which is the front and the back. And there is madal bai, which is the face of the bai, and then butal bai, which is the rear end of the bai. So I think in Irai, Ngiraget sits on the front at madal bai. And then Ngirgit lang, and then of course.
So if there's 2 Ngiragets, how do they have meetings in the bai?
No, in the bai, I think the people in the council, Yuki has the whole council assembled. So there are more people. So he's the one going to the bai, and he's the one who repaired the bai. I know because I repaired the bai. Because when his builder passed away and they couldn't finish the bai, he went to see Dr. Yano. And Dr. Yano came to see me. So that was very clever of him. So because if Yuki had picked up the phone and called me, I would have said, find somebody to do it. But the fact that he went to Dr. Yano, a fellow JBR High School alum, he said, hey, can you ask your cousin to come and, I said, can you ask Patrick to come and help lead and finish the bai? So when of course he was there. And I almost told him, you could have called me directly, but instead. But that's kind of a Palawan way.
Yeah.
So that's a way of putting pressure on me, so I will not be able to say no.
Say no.
There are certain people that when they ask you, you will not be able to. So that's the role of those ranking chiefs. They are the judiciary, like I said last time. The first, second, third, and fourth. So if the crime, for instance, is committed on the first by one of the clans from 5th to the 10th or 11th, if it's the odd numbers, then the even number here's the case. If it's even number, it's the odd number that hears the case. So the actual prosecution is actually between the 5th to the 10th. I normally say 11 because in the case of Malagok, there's 11 chiefs. Also on SR, there is 11, but the 11th one was established through a constitution in 1982. So SR is very unique because it's a parliamentary system, and they said that the person who will be elected governor will hold the 11th title in the Council of Chiefs. And his title will be called PS, which literally means new. So every 4 years, there will be a new title holder in the Bai. All the rest are lifetime appointees. In the case of governor, whenever the person is installed. So there has been a case where Romana Anastasio was governor of SR, so she sat in the Council of Chiefs.
How did they establish this parliamentary as like the most efficient way to?
Yeah, I guess in the writing of the Constitution, my uncle Dr. Paloy was one of the 3 people who did not sign the Constitution because he really was advocating for a parliamentary system for Palau. He felt that parliamentary system would work for Palau. So if somebody in the executive branch is not working, we don't have to wait for 4 years to get rid of the person. We can just call a motion of no confidence and get rid of that person. So him, Judge Singh Itz from Irai, and then Joshua Koshiba, the 3 people, they believed in the Constitution except they wanted a parliamentary system, and they lost out on that. So they refused to sign the Constitution on that account. So a year and a half later, when Dr. Paloy became Chief Ngirakabo of SR, and they were creating the state of SR under the Constitution, he made sure that they have a parliamentary system. So the elected members are 9, and the chiefs are 8. So they gave an edge. No matter what, the chiefs, the elected members will have an edge. But right now, there are like 4 chiefs who are in absentia because one lives in Guam and probably does not travel to Palau, because if he travels to Palau and return to Guam, the Homeland Security will deport him. So he's not boarding a plane. So that's one vacancy. The chief of Ngaraos Hamlet in SR is he cannot walk, and under that same constitution, they actually eliminated the proxy, so he cannot send a proxy. So that's second. And then the second chief of Ngersul, they have a dispute on 2 people, so the council have not confirmed any of them. So that's 3 vacancy. And then the number 1 chief, our relative Ngirakabo of SR, is not bedridden, but he's getting there in age, and then he cannot attend the council meeting, which is normally in the evenings. So although there are 4 chiefs, only 4 are attending. And of those 4 who are attending, 2 of them have buried their wives and have married their, their sweethearts from the Philippines. So they're residing, in Manila. So that takes them away. So, the Filipino wives demand that they're there in Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year. So I guess you can conclude that some of us Palawan men are weak, and then we're.
At least their wives don't have warrants out for their arrest in Texas.
Yeah.
Like that white sweetheart of Young. I saw that on the news. I was like, a warrant out for her arrest?
Yes.
At least she's a lawyer.
It just Subsect. It just gave a very nice lecture at PCC, noontime lecture. So we had a long talk because he was the president of the second Gangan. So I was his secretary of the convention. So as much as I disagree with what what his life choices were, and the fact that the wife is my relative, and he has not, customarily, all of you guys have not, in the Palawan way, if you're tired of your wife, there's a way to part. It involves this. You guys going to the bank. We're not just going to sit back and then allow you guys to just walk away without anything. So
of
as
course.
much as when people say, "Oh, did you know that so and so is actually chased after somebody, went to Texas and went to Saipan?" I said, "Nope, has not, because we haven't seen anything like this."
Yeah.
Because if they have that done, then it's a done deal. We would have given a blessing. But that's we kind of laugh about it, but that's customarily in Palau. There's ways you can take care of these things.
Yeah. Okay, so I can go ahead and ask, how do the older women come into play when we're talking about leadership in the traditional system of chiefs?
You are being mentored as knowing who you are and where you're from. You are being mentored to be who you are because you have a role to play. And the role in IRI, so in the case of in IRI, the women elders of IRI, the Ngasagabui. So Ngasagabui are the counterpart of Ngarayray, Ubad all the way to the last person. People are mentored when they were young. And when they get together, it's a very powerful force because they alone can dissolve that council of chiefs by withdrawing their support to the chiefs. So for us men, we're showing off, oh, we're chief so-and-so, oh, we're chief so-and-so. And then we go fishing, and then we give all the fish to all the matriarchs because we want them to be happy. Not just to be happy, but I think it's part of ensuring and telling them that you are actually the one in charge. So technically we are like somebody once referred to the women of Palau as puppeteers. Is that the name of those people up there using the things? Yeah. So the women of Palau, I think, first I was kind of upset by that, and it's, come to think of it, they really are. And then when they get really upset, they stop. And then as much as you want to move down there, they're holding all the strings. So I think that was I guess they observed us and then made that analogy. So the women of Palau, they get together. The most important thing is that you guys, and when I say you guys, the people from the first, the second, and the third, and the fourth clan, they need to be in good terms with each other all the time. They look up to you because for leadership, they look up to you for direction, for planting seasons, for harvesting seasons, for raising the kids. They look up to you. Even when you're making a feast for the chiefly title, they look up to you. And then the chiefs, which is not happening today, once in a while, I think you need to do a feast don't wait until Yuki dies to go there and have all this money, so thousands and thousands. Do a feast for Dirangaragyu while they can appreciate it and call the relatives of Carol to come and then enjoy the meal and have a good talk. Because they are your workers. So that's kind of the role that they play. That is not always done. I ask people, we invite them to a restaurant or we were there and we pay their food. Yeah, that's very important. But who knows about that? You are the only one who knows. So doing that in Palau is very public. So if you want to do it in the restaurant, just go there and tell them, put the sign up. Oh, this off because there's a more for Ngiraget's wife. Everybody, the word will spread. If you just go there and quietly go tell the waiter, bring their tap, then you pay for it, nobody will know about that. So that's a very public face of Palau. So if you went fishing and then you wanted to give to the maas, you're not going to go straight from your ulangas to go to the house. You're going to go Treveram Ribang all the way around so people see before you bring it there. Because I think it's the public persona is very important. Public, so it has to. In Palawan, they said Kalelawes. So are you familiar with it? Kalelawes it's the feast. Somebody, for a lack of a better term, the feasting of the eyes.
Yeah, eye candy.
Yeah, so you see that. So sometimes I know I was smarting off sometimes when I would come. They have a big funeral in Malagyog and they say, oh, this 100 bags of rice needs to be in Malagyog. And then I calculate that maybe from Malagong SR Ngiwal, they will come, so maybe I'll bring only 10. The rest are all in Koror. So to make it easier, we just leave it in Koror. Then I was always admonist. I learned a lot because I was admonist a lot. Can you do this? Yes, I can. We hear that you're bringing only 10 bags of rice to Malagong. Yeah, I understand, because the relatives from these villages said, that's not for distribution. That's for people to see that so-and-so passed away, and we stock 10 cases of ground beef and 10 cases of chicken and 200 bags of rice. That's really for feasting of the eyes. So there is that public space. And then the women control that. I've never been admonished by men. It was always the women. And they have a very subtle way. Oh, over there, we understand that you're doing this. Yeah, you went to America and you're really smart and the whole work. But by the way, did you bring those 200 bags of rice to Malagong? Oh, no, auntie, I'm just gonna, are you deaf? The question was, did you bring the 200 bags of rice to Malagong? I'm supposed to bring them there. And if only 10 will be transacted, then I'm supposed to bring the 190 back to Koror for distribution.
Yeah.
Because I think, because back then, people they didn't believe in 20-pound bags. They backed them in 50-pound. I'm so happy with the producers. They're now making 10 pounds, 15 pounds. It's easier to lift.
Yeah.
It was back-breaking back then. So I thought, I'm trying to show off being smart and doing the math and calculation. Those women, they can see through all those education we receive outside, and we try to show off. At least me, I try to push the envelope and say, thanks a lot, but no thanks. Do it this way. And they do it in such a way that they will put you in your place.
Yeah.
Really softly. Oh, this, we hear. Not did you. We hear. The we, those women you're asking about, those are the we.
Mm.
And once in a while, when I think the person invoking the we is just speaking for herself, I normally said, hey, who's in the we? And because I have a big mouth, I ask for those. Others are so shocked then. For the we. Yeah. But the women, yeah, they are in charge and they are responsible.
And there's a hierarchy within the women as well, right? The same way there's a hierarchy within the chiefs.
Oh, yeah. And they are the first one. So, like, you come over and then Ira Aces is playing. You have to go there, and without being proud, you just go there to me by how many in the team? 26, and by 26 and bring them. And you wish you didn't stumble upon them, but that's Lamues, eh? Remember the second part of you were seen as helping. Or sometimes if you have only like $5, Malip, there's like $5, so hopefully this will help add to what you're getting for the players. That will have a really big impact. Instead of stumble upon them and said, oh, wait for me, and never show up. That's a killer. Don't ever be caught promising something and not returning. If you really do not have anything, and the trick is, if you're there and you have any nephew or something, and said, you have $10 in your, give me. So you take it from them, and you make sure, when you give back to that nephew, how much are you going to give back? If you took 10, you're giving back
20? 20?
You're giving back, doubling it.
Okay, yeah, I was like 20?
But they know, that's why they are expected. And then for you, you have to know that if you come to Palau, don't walk around with less than like $200 in loose change. I always emphasize that. Don't go around with $100 in bills. The best way is to have them in $1 and $5. Because if once you pull it out, then you can never say, sorry, I only have this big bill. Once you pull it out, you have to give it. So it's a rule of thumb. Go to the bank. How do you want them? I want them in $1. So you can accommodate that many. Because that's building the role of the women. That's equivalent to giving them something to starch to eat. That's equivalent to giving something to drink. So you ask about how they rise in stature. That's how it's done. You're there in the community. You're helping out. Just being there. There was like a disaster. You show up there. Even if they have enough hand, you need to be there. That's the important thing. So, and the women are, that's why at the end of the day, when you die, the last person who will cover your face in the casket, the women. They're the ones who brought you up to the world, who wipe your first tears and first everything. They are the last one. That's why when we finish taking care of the body ready for burial, the two representatives, our mom and that side, will be there, and they will be pressing that last mat. And then they signal for them, okay, it's okay to cover the casket. They're the last one, because that's also symbolic of, they're all powerful in that. I'm not just saying it's a woman. That's the truth in Palau. And I handle X number of so many funerals, so I know when they, thank you, when you come to this house, leave your title in Goro and leave your PCC president outside the door, and then be yourself when you enter the house. So I know when I'm go there,
So with this system in place, are there any preconceived notions on certain families and how they are expected to operate and carry themselves? Like, as you said, persona and presentation to the public eye is very important. And so Are there any preconceived notions for certain families in general?
Yes. In your case, don't finish education and not return. That's the most important part.
Okay.
You have to return. So you heard it from me. Don't have to wait for your mom to ask you. But I think it's very important because people need to be seen. Mlamwes means to be seen. To be seen means that you have to be here. And I appreciate you were here during the thing that's just prior to the games.
I was there the whole summer, actually. I was doing research in the PCC wet lab with CRE.
So I think it's very important that the fact that you were there and you're visible to the community. I know your mom and dad will be there this Friday, which is the family day. You know, a lot of young people will be there, all the Ngarabras and everyone. But it's important that you're asking how they're going to build the statue. You have to have the presence of those in those kind of things. Because I think it's an emotionally charged thing. That funeral, I think, will be. Because he was a very active Ngarabras, or been brought. And most recently, he was like, with Malib, he was the one who helped Palau bring gold medal to Palau. So everybody knows, and I know it's going to be crowded funeral, because I think he really touched the heart of people. And if you're there, well, people will know that you were there. If your name is called there, you know that you were present there. So I think sometimes the presence is not, it's physical. Sometimes it's contribution. Is it going to be? No. So $5, but the name is red. I mean, people really pay attention to those. I've been doing this for like 26 years since I returned, and people will never forget. I mean, I go to Tellei and then I see like an elderly, Rungal kami. And then I will say, you know, we were at so-and-so. We know you were not here, but you know, to hear you, we know that you thought about us in our lowest part of our life. You took all the time to go to fisheries to send that envelope with our name on it. Thank you so much. Those kind of things are very important. But I guess in your case, returning, I don't think it's. So you hear all discussions on social media. We this custom this custom that. That's why we're going to finish education. We're going to stay in America and be middle class there. We're not going to come to Palau. No, you have to come back.
Yeah.
There are certain people that need to be back, because I think the very thing you're asking about will be strengthened with your presence.
But I wanted to ask you about something else that wasn't really related. What do you think about because I was reading the news for Palau and I saw that there was like a news article that was published on May 9, 2025. So like that was not too new, but not too old. But I was just looking over things that concerned the practice of like Palauan as a language in school. And that article was going over how lawmakers were thinking of doing like all subjects in Palauan from kindergarten to 3rd grade. What are your thoughts on that?
No, that's actually the law right now. You have in Palau, you go to school, all subjects must be taught up to their grade in Palauan.
Right now?
Yes, that's the law.
As of when?
I'd say that's Palau 2000s. I'd say 2001 or 2002.
Is the only exception chartered schools, like private schools?
No, they need to teach that also. But guess who's acing the Palawan language in the schools?
Who?
Filipino, Chinese, Korean.
The unrelated.
Oh yeah, they're the ones because they fixed the test where it requires memorization and then written test.
Yeah.
And those kids will excel.
Yeah.
They don't take into consideration the fact that these Palawan kids are actually speaking the language and communicating with each other because they're not grading that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just finished the class last night in the Constitution for those 19 young government employees who will be taking the Pacific PACMET, Pacific Masters in Education.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Palau Constitution. It's PCCIS 189, Palau Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a series of post-tests. I had the same pre-test, and I had it as a midterm, and I had it as final. And I told them last night, some of them were like 9% in the pre-test. 30%, 9%. They got like 2 things right out of. And then by the time we reached yesterday, they were at like 95%. So I'm telling them that ever since I was mentored and trained to be a teacher, I've always wanted to give a grade that reflected what the student knew, not a cumulative of what they didn't really know, came to know them, and now expert of. But then you average them, the kids is like average. I'm saying I'm grading you on what you know best now. So the Palawan should be like that. So all of these kids, they don't speak Palawan, but they write the test and they memorize everything. So so-and-so Ching Fang Wee is straight A in Palawan. But you say something Palawan.
And he didn't understand anything.
They know grammar and they know, so they do well. I think it's very important that we continue. But the important thing is you speak your language.
Yeah.
Speak it at home. Initially, it was tough. They did not allow us to speak it, but now they highly encourage it.
So what do you think about like the rules in SDA where they don't allow you to speak Palawan?
I think they've suspended that already. I'll have to check that, but I thought
I was a victim of that rule.
Yeah, you're supposed to be speaking, because it is an official language, Palawan and English.
Yeah.
And you really cannot prevent people from using that.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we maintain. And the only thing that you should do is you have to use it at home.
Yeah.
I mean, RD speaks, he understands. So every time he picks a phone from Honolulu Goldsmiths, he only speaks Palawan. I guess and then when he talks to the auntie anyway, he just only speaks Palawan. Because he is realizing that because his 3 kids now are from Euripik and Palau and English. They speak English and mom is always with them, so they speak Yapis Outer Island and 0 Palauan. So he's like, man, we really have to do something about it. I said, Ardi, time to return to Ira, and I have a land in Ordon, build a house, then let the kids play with the kids. Then they start learning Cash word, and then they pretty much next thing you know, they can converse. That's the only thing.
I don't know. I think it's like an interesting thing. First of all, I've always disagreed with the fact that we weren't allowed to speak Palauan in SDA. But then I'm also like wondering what a better way to integrate Palauan into teaching is without like with a good balance of like the use of English.
So that's why
English can get you further in the education system, or at least when you're pursuing higher education, it gives you a better chance, puts you in a better place. But then at the same time, it's like a matter of like what you value, and one of the values that I have is like cultural preservation. So at the end of the day, it's just finding a balance between that.
You need to speak it more often. You have to speak it And then if you start dreaming in Palawan, then I think you're very close to preserving it. Because if you
Yeah.
start dreaming in English, then it's problematic. But
So yeah.
but I think that something can be done about it.
Mhm.
You need to speak it, and then you do things the Palawan way. You practice with the language. So I understand. So I've listened to kids taking kind of oral examination. So here's the definition that. So this kid is trying to define. Let's go play ball. Meboto ilirap tu. Dura other bela dura the mamla say. Dad, let's go. Mandiaboto ililap tu. No, you have to say. Meboto stobor, do barebor, hurebor, yakyu, sagor.
Yeah.
You have to name it.
Yeah.
Play ball is not, but the kids who are studying the language, it's a literal. Play, milil. Ball, two. Meboto ilirap tu. But it doesn't make sense in Palau.
Yeah.
Milirap tu. So
Mhm.
because you never, how can you play on the ball? So in many ways, it's Palawan it's contextual.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I
context,
think it's also just a hard, like in general, I just think it's like a hard language to learn for people who are not familiar with, like, for example, it's like the diaspora, like the
yeah,
Palau diaspora wanted to learn it. I feel like in comparison to Tongan and Samoan, um, like the language, like learning the language of Tongan and Samoan, they have more resources in comparison to like Palauans. The best they have is like diginget.com and a
yeah.
bunch of like random videos from
And
like 10
there's a
years
lot
ago.
of there are a lot of Samoans, and then they have BYU, they have BYU Hawaii, they have all these
Yeah,
Mormon.
they like have Hawaiian studies and all of
Yeah,
that. So yeah, it's just something like I've been kind of like thinking about. Obviously, we're more of a minority than they are in terms of like numbers and in terms of how spread out we are in the diaspora. But it's like, yeah, I feel like cultural preservation like is bound to happen within the diaspora as well. But the diaspora doesn't have necessarily the resources to to preserve our culture because of the fact that we don't have those resources readily available online. Because I feel like
yeah.
media is
That's what I was trying to tell the Palawan community in Guam, because I've been there 3 times
Mhm.
to teach the culture and tradition and the Constitution.
Mm.
So the first time I went there, 20 signed up and 85 showed up. I ran
Oh,
out of
what?
resources. Yes. And then the second time it was over 100. And now they're all asking, when are you coming back? Because I go through the sections in the Constitution, and then there's a Palawan concept. I
Mm.
take it through. And then I normally start with one of the things is like I start with the direction of the wind, and then I explain to them the Palawan name, and then I start with the Palawan measurement, the basic Palawan measurement. Some people said we measure with rulers and tape measures like this,
Yeah.
but the Palawans have their own way of measurement,
Measuring.
and it's more accurate also because it involves but the measurement is dependent on people. And once you know the names of the measurement and direction of the wind, you really have, and of course, ungil tuta, ungil, you've actually stepped in the right direction.
Yeah.
Because those are basic. Once you know the basic measurement, then you already know that the counting is out of the way.
Mhm.
Those are some of the things that I like taking at that time. I helped a lot with also that those Palawan cliches, proverbs, and everything. I'm trying to figure out whose voice was that, but I think it's very important that they actually ask, what does this thing mean?
Yeah.
And then so the context behind those, what did they mean? When they use this, uh, like the expression, "Hindi ako lawa alabule." Hindi ako lawa alabule. We're so, but di ako lawa alabule really, if it's a custom involved money, then that di ako lawa alabule is the same expression, but you don't use it to define you as being famished. You're so broke. It's
Yeah.
still the same thing. Diakalawa alabul, but it's alabul broke. It's alabul to Diakalawa alabul as maltom. You went fishing and you had anything or
Mm.
famished, like you don't have anything to eat. So it's the same thing, but it's really context determine the meaning.
So our time here in the studio is wrapping up, and I want to say once again thank you to Dr. Tellei for joining us on this episode of the Oceanic Podcast. It's been an honor to learn from him about the women's leadership in Palau, from the power of elder women and matrilineal clans to their role in guiding chiefs, caring for families, and sustaining Palauan culture at home and in the diaspora. We would like to thank our funder, the Green Initiative Fund at UC Berkeley, as well as the Ethnic Studies Changemaker Studio for helping us record this podcast. This podcast was made possible by research and planning by CPISC co-founders Sophia Perez, Kieran Rudge, and Nate Tilton, as well as CPISC members Viv Kammerer and Georgia Cutter. CPISC's work also deeply benefits from the support of Angel Halafihi at the Pacific Islander Initiative and Dr. Clancy Wilmot in the Geography Department. Thanks for listening to this episode in our series on women's roles in Oceania. We hope you'll join us next time as we continue to explore the depth and complexity of Pacific roles with scholars, elders, and community leaders. So long!